You're training hard, you're eating enough protein, you're trying to progress, but nothing changes. It's not your genetics, it's not your age, it's simply that your body is in survival mode. And when the body feels threatened, it does not build muscle. And today I will explain to you what it means and how to reverse it. For the ones who are new to my channel, I am Dr. Neš Jocic, former bodybuilding champion. I have competed 46 times and won 17 titles. I've been in bodybuilding for over 40 years, and during that time I have personally coached 3,500 people and helped them to get in the best shape of their lives. I've also published 12 ebooks, which are fully loaded with everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you want to deepen your knowledge and expand your horizons, and finally start building muscle and burning body fat, simply click on that link in the comments and you can access my ebooks. Now, let me tell you that muscle is not a priority. Your body has one primary goal, and this is simply survival. It's not aesthetics, it's not six-pack, it's not big legs, it's not big arms, because muscle growth is a luxury adaptation. And throughout evolution, building big muscles would be absolutely detrimental for survival. Why? Because big muscles and muscle growth is simply the most expensive physiological process that can happen. It costs a lot of energy. So that is absolute luxury. In order to build muscle, you have to be in a perfect internal environment. And if your resources are unstable, the muscle growth will simply shut down because the body is fighting for survival, and this is number one priority, not muscle growth. So what puts the body into survival mode? There are 5 main triggers, and most lifters today have all 5. So let me start with the first one. So trigger number 1 is chronic stress. So there are different types of stress, and one that basically everyone is exposed to is high work stress. We all work. We are always expected to deliver our best. We are also very competitive. We are also trying to make as much results as possible, to make as much money as possible. And this is something that is putting us into that stress all the time. So basically we are constantly stressed with work, and this is simply unavoidable. Now, on top of that, you're going to the gym. So you're exposing yourself to another type of stress. This time, this stress is voluntary. You want to achieve some difference. You want to build muscle. You want to be healthier. And this is all fine. But the problem is that most of the time, most people simply overtrain, meaning they are doing things wrong in the gym. So number one thing in the gym they do wrong is they're training every muscle twice per week or maybe 3 times per week. Number 2, most people are always trying to push every set to failure. For whatever reasons, I don't know, probably some psychological reasons. But physiologically, this is absolutely necessary and is also detrimental for your recovery. Because when you push every set to failure, you will be highly stressing your central nervous system. And not just that, but also all other tissues which are involved in that particular muscle group that you're training. So when people say, oh, muscle can recover within 48, 72 hours, so you can train this again. Yes, muscle can recover, but it's not just muscle that you're using. When you're training chest, for example, you're not using just muscles. You're also using connective tissues. You're using a whole bunch of tendons and ligaments, and these connective tissues, they require longer period to recover. They cannot recover in 72 hours. And for that reason, I advise that every muscle should be trained roughly every 7 days. Also, you're not just stressing your particular muscle group, but also training muscle twice per week. You're overstressing your central nervous system. So your CNS is constantly hammered day after day because you are doing intensity too high to failure or beyond failure with force reps, supersets, similar techniques. And also you're stressing your connective tissues, your central nervous system, and this is huge amount of stress. So you are stressed at work, and now you go to the gym, and instead of training correctly without overstressing your whole training units and also CNS, you're adding extra stress to yourself. Also, constant stimulation. We are constantly exposed to different stimulants, like, for example, pre-workouts, coffee. Coffee is not bad, but most of the time, most people drink too much coffee. They always I need another cup of coffee and another cup of coffee because I need to go through. I feel a little bit sleepy. I feel slow. I'm not thinking sharp. So let me grab just another cup of coffee. And they end up drinking 4, 5, 6, 7 cups of coffee a day, which is another tremendous amount of stress because you're simply overproducing cortisol, which is the hormone that you don't want in your body to be chronically elevated. Also, another thing which contributes to chronic stress is poor sleep. So you need to sleep 7 to 9 hours every night. And this, I'm talking about uninterrupted sleep. That sleep should be deep, meaning that you should sleep in the quiet room, relatively cold rather than hot. Also, the room has to be very dark. No light should be in your room where you sleep. And that will help you to actually achieve all the benefits that deep sleep provides. So when you are chronically stressed, your cortisol remains elevated. So short term is fine, but chronically elevated turns the whole environment into a catabolic state, meaning you're breaking down your muscle tissue, simply because this is what cortisol does. In order to supply enough glucose to the body, cortisol will burn muscle tissue and turn muscle protein into glucose. And in this scenario, your body shifts toward conservation. So protein breakdown increases, recovery decreases, and testosterone declines. So all this is actually directly related to the trigger number 1, which is chronic stress. Now, trigger number 2 is constant insulin elevation. It is not unknown that most people eat 4, 5, 6 times a day, if not more, and also snacking in between the meals, meaning most people, most of the time, are eating constantly during the day. Many meals and also snack between the meals. So what that does to your body? This is simply keeping your insulin always high, and you are entering the stage of chronically elevated insulin. So I advise 2 to 3 meals a day. I eat 2 to 3 times per day. My clients do the same. My son does the same. And the reason for that is not just building bigger muscles, yes, burning more body fat, but more importantly is a massive metabolic benefit. Metabolic health will benefit dramatically if you eat 2 to 3 times per day instead of 4, 5, 6, and also eating, snacking in between. And the reason for that is because your insulin will be controlled. So when you eat all the time, when you eat many meals and you're snacking in between, your insulin never drops. Over time, you will develop insulin resistance because your insulin sensitivity worsens. If your insulin is high and present, chronically elevated day after day, your insulin receptors will simply start closing, meaning that your insulin sensitivity will worsen and eventually you will become insulin resistant. When that happens, also your inflammation rises. You don't want any inflammation in your body, or at least minimal. Also, your nutrient partitioning declines. So when exposed to this chronically elevated insulin, your body stores. It does not build. So the body does that because it prioritizes stability, not necessarily muscle growth. Now, the trigger number 3 is nervous system fatigue. So number 1, again, training every muscle 2 to 3 times per week is absolutely fatiguing your nervous system unnecessarily. Constantly high intensity, meaning training every set to failure or beyond failure, is something that is wrecking your CNS. It's impossible to recover if you're training like that. Even steroids will not help you recover. And this is why the most important innovation in the bodybuilding since 90s was that people started training every muscle once per week. Even people on steroids, professional bodybuilders, advanced bodybuilders, everybody is training nowadays muscle once per week. And why is that? Because they have realized from experience, from practical application of that training system, that this allows them to fully recover, not just muscles, not just connective tissues, but also CNS, central nervous system. When the nervous system is overwhelmed, when it's taxed too high, the body reduces metabolic signaling and you simply stop growing because your central nervous system is in charge. And if your central nervous system is not happy, you're not going to recover. And if you don't recover, your body will start again storing rather than building, and your growth slows or stops. Trigger number 4 is sleep suppression. So deep sleep drives testosterone, growth hormone, and also recovery cycles. Sleep is so important that if I tell you that actually you grow your muscles more and burn your fat more during sleep, this is enough. Why is that? Because this is when you produce most of your growth hormone during the sleep, and this is the most powerful hormone. It's not called growth hormone for nothing. It helps not only to grow, to build your muscles, but also it does rejuvenates all your tissues and organs in the body. So you see how important is that growth hormone. So if you don't sleep enough, if you sleep 4, 5, 6 hours, and if your sleep is interrupted, you will never produce enough growth hormone. So you will be short of muscle growth, fat loss, and also rejuvenation of all organs and tissues. I mean, it's absolutely non-debatable. If you don't sleep enough, your recovery cycles are slow, you are not recovering properly, and for that reason, again, you have to make sure that you sleep anywhere from 7 to 9 hours. Preferably, you should go to bed 11 or latest midnight, and make sure that you're sleeping in a room which is very dark, no lights, relatively cold rather than warm, also quiet. So you need all these conditions in order to achieve the deep sleep, which is absolutely necessary for everybody who is trying to build muscle, and also for all of us because of that huge amount of stress that we are exposed every day through work and also through training sessions. Now, trigger number 5 is chronic inflammation. So chronic inflammation is something that is absolutely detrimental for overall health, not necessarily just for muscle growth, and is caused especially by ultra-processed foods. So forget about this. Don't stop eating ultra-processed foods because it contains so many components which are really toxic for the body, like, for example, hydrogenated oils, also seed oils, sugar, too much carbohydrates. It's simply a disaster, especially for cardiovascular system. So you don't want this chronic inflammation. Also very low micronutrients. So processed food have no vitamins, no minerals, no iron, no B12, nothing. If you compare that to eggs, you compare it to meat, liver, fish, they are so full, so rich of micronutrients, which are simply without any comparison with any processed food that you can eat. Also, low-grade inflammation tells the body that environment is unstable. And if environment is unstable, growth is postponed. Now, why is this worse today than ever before? Simply because modern life is much faster than ever before. We are all constantly in a hurry to deliver more. We are constantly under the pressure to perform better. Expectations are high. We are trying to be as better as possible, trying to make as much money as possible. We are worrying about our families, to provide safety, decent standard of living. So that put much more stress now than ever before. Life is more stressful for that reason. We are more stimulated because we are constantly exposed to all kind of advertising, all kind of publicity, news. We are exposed to computers and phones 8, 10, 12 hours a day, maybe even more in some cases. So this is much worse than ever before. We are simply overstimulated. Also, now we are eating more than ever, If you see, for example, pictures of people on the beaches in 50s and 60s, you see hundreds of people on the beach, and they were all slim. Watch, for example, some football match, Premier League in 50s. The whole crowd, when the team scores, they jump, and you can see men are all slim, lean, all of them. You can't even find one overweight or obese person. I mean, just look at the same scenario now. So the reason for that is that there is more insulin spiking. People are eating all the time. Unfortunately, this very attractive, very addictive food, which is processed food, snacks, biscuits, crisps, chocolates, ice creams, all that kind of stuff is very cheap and is very pleasurable, very satisfying, and people are eating that all the time. So it's absolutely worse than ever. So this all should be taken into consideration when we are trying to escape this survival mode. Now let me tell you a few words about the way to exit survival mode, and this is extremely important part. So you're not going to fix your survival mode by adding more exercises, by training longer, by training harder, by doing more force reps, by adding more supplements, some super supplements that will recover you, or even steroids. They're not going to help you exit this survival mode. But you can fix it by, number one, reducing chronic stress. So you need to think about stress that you're exposed every day and see which type of stress you can reduce. There are stresses which you cannot reduce because they are involuntary, but there is stress that can be reduced. For example, the voluntary stress that we put ourselves into is training stress. We go to the gym, our workouts are stressful anyway, but they will be too stressful if you train every muscle twice per week or more, if you perform every exercise to failure, every set to failure, if you're doing intense techniques which are very popular for whatever reasons, like beyond failure, supersets, negatives, force reps, and similar. Also, you can definitely reduce stress when it comes to constant insulin spikes by eating 2 to 3 meals per day, meals which are predominantly made of protein and fat with very little carbohydrates or no carbohydrates at all. Another way to fix this scenario of survival mode is to protect your deep sleep. Do everything as I mentioned. Make sure that you go to bed a bit earlier. Sleep 7 to 9 hours. Sleep in the dark room with no lights. Very quiet room, relatively cold, because you sleep much better in that environment. Also, controlling intensity, as I mentioned, and frequency. So if you start training every muscle once per week and you stop going to failure in every set, you will just put yourself into as much stress as necessary, but not too much stress. And this is extremely important in order to manage your recovery cycles. Because as I explained, training every muscle once per week is not just for making bigger muscles, but also to recover your connective tissues, which need more time to recover than muscles, and also your central nervous system, which also requires more time than connective tissues and muscles together. So point of reference is to train every muscle once per week. Some people can get away training muscle maybe 5 or 6 times in 5 or 6 days. Some people may need 8, maybe 9 days, but I have to give you a point of reference. So I respond very well on most of my clients by training every muscle once a week. So these are the ways that you can actually exit that survival mode and finally restart your muscle growth. If I can give you a final message, that would be that if your body feels under threat, it will protect you. It's not going to be concerned about building more muscle, because this is absolute physiological luxury, as I said in the beginning. So if you are under threat, the body will do everything to survive. So forget about muscle growth. Muscle is only built when your internal environment is stable. And this internal environment and the stability of it depends on all these factors that I've just mentioned. So if you take care of that, you will create internal environment which will allow the body to go step further, meaning to start building more muscle. And this is something that most lifters never address for whatever reasons. Maybe they don't know all these things, or maybe they know, but they just simply ignore it. And if you fix your internal environment, your physique will start changing. Now, let me remind you once again that I have published 12 ebooks which are fully loaded with detailed explanation about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you want finally to start building muscles and burning body fat, simply click on that link in the comments and you can access my ebooks. I would also like you to watch this video in which I introduce my other services, actually ways that I can help you personally, one-to-one, to get in the best shape of your life. And those services are personalized training programs, personalized nutritional programs, telephone consultations, online coaching, and also personal training one-to-one for people who live in London. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, share the video, like the video, and also send me your comments. And until the next video, I wish you all the best.